For what the fuck? Maybe when you smoke your pie, you shouldn't smoke so much. Because I know that you're high. Michael Chandler would die against Connor or Tony. Homie, so don't even try. Now should I keep it with you or should I get on your roster? Even Jimmy Smith is just a roster imposter. You got James Gallagher, he just wanna be Connor. You got Rory McDonald only cause we didn't want him. You see, Scott Coker, me and you, we are not kosher. You're not a stockbroker, boy, you're a stockholder. What the fuck were you thinking, sending that shitty diss my way? You need to think before you diss. While you're at it, take these flyways.
Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Full-time MMA? Nothing else.
My life, man, yeah.
Nobody fucking with me, yeah. I'm about to go be Stipe, yeah. Moving up to heavyweight, yeah. And I am destined to be great, yeah. And if you didn't know, they call me DC. And there's no one that you know that can beat me. Yeah, I fought John Jones, but was he clean? I don't think so. What's in that PP? Steroids, cocaine, probably weed. Testosterone, dick pills, and speed. And shrooms, and pills, and codeine. Goddamn, John turned into a dope fiend. And Stipe's about to turn into a folding chair. When I fold him up, I'ma win 2 belts and hold him up. On my champ shit, Connor knows what's up, little bitch. Dear Sean, I don't know if we'll ever talk again, so I'd like to thank you for that interview. And by the way, how's your ankle? You just won your last fight and you couldn't even walk. You beat Andre Tugendorf, and that ain't no walk in the park. And now you got the world behind you, but they don't like you like I like you. They don't give you credit, they think you won cause Andre's IQ. And low key, I'm hyped for Sugar Show OG. You got your own strain, that's dope, I need me a OZ. See, you gave me an interview and no one knows me. And that's why I'm like kin to you, not just a homie, but homie. You ain't respond to my text or my email, so I'm about to grab my girl up by her neck, and I'm gonna probably choke her out, and I'm gonna go and get my tech, and I'm gonna start shooting shit until Sean O'Malley sends me a text. What is going on, everybody? It's been a minute since I live streamed, but I want to get these UFC 270 predictions out the way, and I also wanted to test the live stream. You can see I got a little bit of a new setup, and yeah, it's looking like it's doing a little buffering, so we're gonna make this quick. Clearly I still have the same computer that I've been trying to get my streaming situation fixed with, but yeah, we're gonna make this. Worst case scenario, we record a video after this. But what is going on, everybody? It's your boy Full-Time MMA in the building. We're going to be talking about a few things today. We're going to be talking about the UFC 270 fight card, Ngannou versus Gane for the heavyweight crown. Also, we've got Figuero versus Moreno 3 going down for the flyweight crown. That's going to be a good fight right there. Ooh, I can't wait to give my prediction on that one. And then other than that, which is another reason we haven't been doing a lot of much streaming lately, is, man, the UFC is just MMA in general. I mean, there's been a big hiatus, but it hasn't been very entertaining lately. Like, just really the whole, like, the end of 2021, just it really hasn't. Honestly, to me, it feels like the quality of the UFC has just been tanking. It reminds me of what one of my boys used to say, how the UFC is going to be obsolete. He always used to say in the comments, like, UFC obsolete. It was some crazy, like, poem he would write about the UFC becoming obsolete, and it's like, month by month, I almost feel like that's coming to fruition. You've got all these fighters being released, leaving their contract. You've got all of these fighters that are just coming to the UFC by way of the Contender Series and just being signed on short notice fights. And it feels like there's just a lot of fighters that have no name, making their debuts these days. On the last card we had, and I think even on this pay-per-view, there's just an insane amount of fighters making their debut, and it's like, so we don't know any of these guys. We don't know anything about them. We don't know their story. We don't know their resume. None of that, which is all extremely important. I'm not just here to watch two guys fighting. I can go to fucking World Star Hip Hop, or I can go to my local fights if I just want to watch two guys throwing fists. I used to watch the UFC because it was the best fighters in the world. I knew these guys. I could look at their resume and say, oh, this motherfucker has fought Tony Ferguson. Andy's fought Beneil Dariush. Andy's fought fucking Islam Makhachev. Andy's fought, oh, he's fought all these badass dudes. I know he's serious. You look at these guys now, it's like, oh, he fought a guy that was 2-0 on the regional. You don't know anything about him, and then they end up actually. I'm not very entertained in it, honestly, these days. Hence, plus the shadow ban, which we were one of the first YouTube channels shadow banned a long time ago. By now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen a lot of the more prominent channels being shadow banned, and it's way more common nowadays. So when you take the shadow ban on top of the fucking lack of entertainment value from a lot of this MMA these days, with all these people making their debuts, yeah, you get a lack of motivation to make these videos. Plus, when you're doing well in your personal business, you know what I'm saying, which I have been doing, that's where we've been. So with that being said, we're back. It's 2022. New year, new me. Hopefully, this Ngannou vs. Gane card sets off a really exciting year of UFC fights and MMA entertainment that will draw us back to the sport and rekindle our MMA flame. You know, fingers crossed. We still got all this Rona stuff going on, so that leaves you super skeptical and hard to be optimistic at times, but that's what we're going to do here. So I think the first thing we're going to do is get into our UFC 270 predictions, and I hope we're still streaming. I was getting, on YouTube, they were telling me my stream was going to be buffering because the quality wasn't good enough, so I'm hoping you guys, I'm going to pull up the chat soon, see if there's anyone in here and see what we're talking about. UFC 270 Tapology. We're going to look at this here. I'm going to talk about my predictions for the main card. I did those today. I might do a separate video just on my predictions for that card. We will check that out. So, this is the fight card right here. We've got, it's headlined by Francis Ngannou versus Ciro Gane, Brandon Moreno versus Davison Figuero. We've got Michel Pierro versus Andre Fijalo. That was just added to the main event because we lost, or to the main card because we lost a fight. We had, who else just fell off the card? Okay, maybe I did the Charles Jourdain and Ila Taporia fight. You know, whenever we lost, I can't think of exactly which fight fell off the card recently, but there was a fight on the main card that's no longer on the card, and so it looked like they're going to be moving Ilia Taporia and Charles Jourdain to the pay-per-view. There's going to be a fight on the pay-per-view from the main card, but it hasn't been fully decided. Yesterday it was Taporia versus Jourdain. Today it's Pierro versus Fijalo. One of these are going to be on the pay-per-view. I did my predictions for Taporia versus Jourdain, so I'm going to break that fight down. But yeah, so we'll get into that. But first, I do want to see if anyone is in here, give some shout-outs, because it's been a while. It has been a while, and it would be interesting to see. I know my boy Mike Dang has been commenting and chopping, asking me my he's usually asking me my opinion on a couple of things. So salute to Mike Dang. What's going on, man? Alright, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get into our predictions. First off, we're going to start with the main event of the evening. It's going to be Gane versus Ngannou. Ciro Gane is the current UFC interim heavyweight champion. He's undefeated at 10-0, coming off a round 3 finish of the Black Beast Derek Lewis, and he's also the former sparring partner of Ngannou. Ngannou's currently riding a 5-fight winning streak with wins over some of the best heavyweights in the world, though, including a second-round KO over Stipe Miocic. Now, for me in this one, I personally don't see Gane winning this fight unless he gets lucky. Ngannou has been beating much higher level competition than Ciro Gane en route to becoming the champion. and it's going to take more than a little sparring footage and access to a former coach to convince me that someone's going to beat Francis. I would much rather entertain the Stipe Miocic trilogy or the John Jones super fight, if that ever happened, as somebody that would potentially beat Francis, rather than Cyril Gane, who, is just a former sparring partner. And really, the only person that he's beat on, even in the top 5 caliber, you would say, is Derek Lewis. And that's the only guy. As to where Francis Ngannou has been beating champions, current and former, en route to becoming the champion. So on top of that, Francis has improved. He's been improving a lot since he was teammates with Gane, since they were sparring together, since they had the same coach. Francis has been improving by leaps and bounds, as you've seen from his first Stipe fight to his second Stipe fight. The growth he's had just since then. So Francis is a whole nother fighter, fighting even better fighters. I'm taking Francis Ngannou. That's where I would put my money if I was betting, for sure. They say Cyril Gane is a favorite. That's surprising to me, but hey, some people are buying into the hype, buying into the sparring footage. I'm taking Francis Ngannou to take this fight. That's just where my head is at. I know there's talks of him becoming a free agent after this fight. He's gonna walk away the champion unless the UFC gives him a bag, and I'm sure they'll be able to get it figured out with Francis Ngannou, man. Him and the UFC had a pretty good relationship all the way up until this fight. He was pretty inactive, but usually when the UFC is upset with a guy, you can see it a little more, and there really hasn't been any sign except for Francis Ngannou's claims, and a lot of the time that's promotion and a little bit, he might be throwing a fit, but it's something that I'm sure they'll be able to get worked out, especially with their their heavyweight champion. There's talks of Francis going to boxing, but there's just so much on the table, and he would. I just don't see it happening, man. I really don't see Francis Ngannou walking away from the UFC, especially win or lose. If he lost, it's one thing. I could see him losing and walking away from the UFC because he might not get what he's asking for. He wouldn't have as much bargaining power. But if Francis wins, I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to get whatever he wants from the UFC. I'm sure he's not going to be asking for too much. It would seem like very unreasonable for Francis to have this great relationship with the UFC and then all of a sudden start throwing a hissy fit and want to leave. So I think Francis wins this fight. I think he stays with the UFC. I don't know what happens after this fight for Francis, but I mean, of course, there's the talks of the Stipe trilogy. There's John Jones. And speaking of what happens for this fight after Francis, that's me saying that. That's not fucking Francis looking past this fight. As we just saw with Giga Chikadze, there were a lot of people looking past Calvin Kattar with Giga Chikadze, and we just saw Calvin Kattar put the dirty lickings on that guy. And that's what happens when you look past an opponent. Now, speaking of, we're going to pull up this article right here. Cyril Gane, I want to fight against John Jones after beating Francis Ngannou at UFC 270. I'm going to pull up another article from this website that I saw. I hope it's still here. I'm going to go to the main page. But one of Gane's teammates, I believe it's... Yep. Okay, that's Davison Figuero's teammate. Davison Figuero's teammate, John, he expects John Jones to beat Gane after this. Everyone's talking about now John Jones versus Cyril Gane as if, and even Cyril Gane, as if Francis Ngannou is not there. As if it's a foregone conclusion that Cyril Gane is going to be able to defeat Francis Ngannou, and that is insane. We literally just seen this happen last week. People were looking past Calvin Kattar with Giga Chikadze. Now people are doing the same thing with one of the most dangerous heavyweights on the planet, to the point that he is an underdog. Francis Ngannou is an underdog, and this is my thing. What skill set does Cyril Gane possess that we have not seen Francis Ngannou destroy? We have seen Francis Ngannou destroy The former best wrestler in the division, Cain Velasquez, former UFC heavyweight champion. The current best wrestler in the division, NCAA wrestler Curtis Blades, in his fucking just who's a beast in himself and for sure a future UFC heavyweight champion. His resume already speaks volumes, and he's still a kid at heavyweight. Curtis Blades is a beast. He is probably to this day still the best wrestler in the heavyweight division. Francis Ngannou's knocked him out twice. He's beat the some of the most decorated strikers in Alistair Overeem. So that's what people were saying. Oh, he's a kickboxer. You know, he's going to be able to pick Francis apart. People see Francis Ngannou because he's so big and knocks so many people out, and they literally think he's just a knockout artist that can't do anything else. And like he's just some fucking scrub that's gonna come in from a bar fight that's not a trained athlete that's just gonna start throwing fucking haymakers and people are gonna be able to pick him apart. That is not Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou has beat Stipe Miocic, Alistair Overeem. He's beat decorated strikers. He's beat decorated wrestlers. I mean, the only style left for Francis Ngannou to really showcase himself against for that argument would be like a jiu-jitsu specialist, like the Damian Maya or the Brandon Moreno of the heavyweight division. Which who would that be? Like the dude that always pulls the Ezekiel chokes, Olenek. But Francis Ngannou has passed the test to show he can beat any style. I don't see anybody beating Francis Ngannou except for age or one of the best fighters in the world, proven. I'm talking John Jones, Steven Miocic. Cyril Gane has not proven near enough for me to say he'll be able to beat Francis Ngannou. Sorry, the sparring footage, none of that is even close to wavering my thoughts on Francis Ngannou's skills versus Cyril Gane's. It's just not there. So I'm taking Francis Ngannou. If it's heavyweight division, this is the division that anything can happen at any time. Don't blink because anybody can get knocked out. These guys are swinging serious beef, but at the same time, I'm taking Francis Ngannou to win this fight. And honestly, I think it's a little disrespectful he's being looked past like this, but I think he's going to remind everybody just who the hell he is come this Saturday. All right, next fight we got Brandon Moreno versus Davison Figuero, former UFC flyweight champion. Figuero's 9-2-1 in the UFC, coming into this rematch with everything to lose. This is gonna be his third, and let's pull this back up. UFC Tapology. Davison Figuero right here. Here's his record. You can see on the screen. All right, so this is going to be Davison Figuero's third crack at Brandon Moreno, and if he loses this fight, he may never get the belt back, given that Figuero is 34 years old, and he's probably not going to get another title fight as long as the baby assassin remains champion. The UFC's first Mexican-born champion, Brandon Moreno, and current UFC flyweight champion, is 8-3 in the UFC after his loss to Sergio Pettis. Man, though, this is something about Brandon Moreno, man. Let's go down memory lane for a quick second. Whenever he lost to Sergio Pettis a few years ago, I remember telling myself, Brandon Moreno will never be the UFC champion. He will never make it. I remember telling myself that. This was whenever Demetrius Johnson was still on top of the world, with King Henry looking as if he was primed to be the flyweight division's ultimate gatekeeper. Brandon Moreno then went on to lose his next fight after Sergio Pettis and get dropped from the UFC. He fought one fight in the LFA, though, afterwards, where he earned a fourth round TKO, and then he got re-signed by the UFC, and he went 4-0-1 to earn his fight with Figueroa, where he got a draw, and then his rematch where he was able to become the champion. But with that being said, Brandon Moreno went down a serious path of redemption to get here, to the point of he got dropped from the UFC, fought in another organization, re-signed by the UFC, he fought 2 draws through his win streak. Either one of those could have just a ball hair away from being the other guy's hand raised, a split decision, a draw. That could have went the other guy's way either time, and Brandon Moreno would have not got this opportunity. So this dude has literally battled through so much adversity to get here. It's insane. But with that being said, he is that submission specialist we talked about in the last fight. Brandon Moreno is like the Damian Maia, the Royce Gracie of the flyweight division. He's there. He's trying to choke you out. That's what he's there to try and do. He's not known for knocking guys out, not known for his power, anything of the sort. And so that's how he was able to win the first fight. And with that being said, Davison Figuero, man, I really feel like is more well-rounded in this fight, and he's got a lot more to lose. And so for that reason, I'm going to be picking Davison Figuero to win this fight. As I said, he's got a lot more to lose. If Figuero loses this fight, he's not going to ever be the champion again unless he maybe moves up a weight class and, you know, gets a title shot after a win or two there. But he's not going to get a crack at the flyweight title again if he loses this fight. If Moreno loses, not only is he young, but he's likely to get a rematch, and he's got time on his side. So, and he's also a new champion. He's got a lot more media obligations he's dealing with now, a lot more distractions going into this that Figueredo has already dealt with when he was the champion. So there's a lot more distractions on Moreno's side, and a lot more at risk on Figueredo's side, and a lot of that is playing into my decision for why I'm picking Figueredo to win this fight. But I mean, this is one that clearly I would not be surprised if Brandon Moreno won. He won the last fight. They fought to a draw. This is a really tough fight for Figueredo, and it's going to take a lot for him to be able to come out and actually pull this off. But I am picking Figueredo to get the job done. So that's Ngannou and Figueroa I am taking in the title fights. The next three fights will fast forward through. Like I said, it's Jourdain and Topuria. I'm going to be picking Ilya to remain undefeated in that fight. He's going to pass a test that is Charles Jourdain. Both of these guys are well-rounded, but Topuria has more impressive victories in the UFC. He's undefeated, and Jourdain is taking this fight on short notice. There's two more fights on the main card. We've got Wellington Thurman versus Rudolph Vieira. See, these fights right here are where people start to go to sleep and tune out. Nobody knows or cares about Rudolph Vieira or Wellington Thurman except for their teammates, training partners, and family members. I mean, that's it. Like, there's not many people that even know these guys. I'm a hardcore fan, and I don't know anything about these guys' stories except for when I research their fights and I look at their topology and their resumes, but there's no real reason to why these guys are fighting as far as title contention. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure neither one of these guys are even in the top 15. So not super interested. Like I said, though, I'm gonna be taking Vieira in this fight, Rudolfo Vieira in this fight. Trying to pull up the fight card just so we can get a look at it while we're here. There we go. Alright, I'm going to take Rudolfo Vieira. Let's see if we can pull him up here. Rudolfo Vieira topology. There we go. I'm going to pull him up real fast just so we can have the fight card on the screen. He is the black belt hunter, and this is a primed match for him. This going against a guy that's probably going to end up on the ground with him, and he's the black belt hunter. Rudolfo Vieira, he's got like 335,000 Instagram followers, which all from his jiu-jitsu. He's like a 5-time jiu-jitsu world champion. And Rudolfo Vieira, I think he's going to come off and showcase his jiu-jitsu in this fight and get the W. The last fight we'll talk about before we move on to a couple MMA topics and get out of here. We've got Said Nurmagomedov versus Cody Stamann. This one's actually interesting. I'm not sure if it's I believe it's Khabib's cousin, Said Nurmagomedov. But all signs in this fight to me are pointing toward Cody Stamann winning this fight. He's got much more experience fighting against the best fighters in the world. He's been more active while doing so. Cody Stamann has never been knocked out, and he's only been submitted once against the current UFC bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling. The only way I see Said winning this fight is a robbery, unless he's been out cycling on some really good steroids in his time away from the sport. Maybe some of that Russian doping scandal, EPO type stuff, who knows. But that's what he's going to need to beat Cody Stamann in this fight. He's going to need some of that secret sauce, because I just think Cody Stamann's going to be the best wrestler he's ever faced, and he's just been fighting much tougher competition. And so with that being said, I'm picking Cody Stamann to upset the Nurmagomedovs in this fight. Now, we're going to talk about just a couple news articles before we get out of your hair. We're going to talk about a couple upcoming fights. Masvidal versus Covington. This is a fight that, fuck, I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I was listening to Uncle Chell today, and I was listening to the MMA Hour yesterday, and Ariel Helwani was talking about, not liking people who think they know when fights are fake, or like, not even fake, but just kind of being built up. What's the word? Smart marks. I'm not really falling for the gimmick. I never have. To me, even after Colby Covington was coming out as this asshole heel character, him and Mozvral were still best friends. And then at some point they just kind of separated, and at that point I'm like, oh, it's like they're Mozval's either protecting his brand, and now in hindsight, or starting to build a big fight. Now think about this. You and your brother fight on a daily basis. Every day you guys practice fighting with each other. You punch each other, you spar with each other, you wrestle with each other every single day. Now we have a place where we can say, hey, if we talk enough trash on camera, we can go do what we do every single day and make millions of dollars to do it. So even if these guys really do hate each other, let's say Masvidal and Covington just really hate each other's guts, right? I'm pretty sure after the fight, I mean, Usman and Covington hated each other's guts, but I'm sure after the fight, they're probably going to be like, all right, man, I forgive you. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a little easier to forgive your old best friend after you guys have made each other millions of dollars. So I just can't put much heat on this fight. I don't know how the fight's going to go. I don't see Masvidal flying knee knocking him out. I could easily see Covington just holding him down and wrestling him, not doing too much damage to him in order to kind of, it's just one of his good old friends. And we've seen Colby Covington break character on a couple occasions, so hard for me to really just get too hyped for it like a casual fan would. I know a couple people that'll probably be, oh my god, you see Covington Masvidal, it's really happening, Like, there's going to be some people that definitely buy into it, and I'm sorry if I'm just not one of those guys. But Masvidal is one of my favorite fighters of all time, man, and I'm not interested in seeing him lose a third fight in a row. It's not a good matchup on paper, and so I'm just really not excited for this fight. I want to see Masvidal be put into a position to succeed, like one of the UFC's darling children, like Conor McGregor, and I love Sean O'Malley. He's my boy, but the UFC is actually doing very well with his matchmaking. And after Jorge Masvidal's stardom, they've really treated him kind of like shit. He's just not one of their darlings. They haven't really given him those favorable, not even favorable, but just those matchups that are going to get the fans super excited, and he's got a better chance of winning. He's going against Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, just straight dogfight wrestlers, and it's terrible matchups for Masvidal, who's got this superstar shine, and I feel like the UFC, and maybe it's part to do with Masvidal's age. They don't want to give him that shine for that long. They know that he's too independent. But either way, man, I'm not interested in seeing Masvidal lose a third fight in a row with him being my favorite fighter of all time. And it's a terrible matchup. I'm hoping somehow he wins this fight. I seen Covington thumping him on his head 5 years ago in footage, just completely out wrestling him. I know it was when Masvidal was at a different weight class, but both of these guys have, even though Masvidal is more of a welterweight now, it's still styles make fights, and he's still going to get out wrestled by these more dominant wrestlers. We haven't really seen anything from Masvidal, or really, it's just UFC knowledge in general, man. These guys, especially like Masvidal, who are more of the street fighters that like to throw hands and stuff like that, they'll learn their defensive wrestling, But generally, man, these guys are going to come in here and they're going to get, the wrestlers are just going to try and hold them down because they don't want to throw hands with them. If Covington really was about that life, he would come in here and throw hands with Masvidal, but he's not going to do that. So I'm not super pumped about that fight, but I will watch it just out of curiosity to see how it plays out for sure. Aljamain Sterling talking about steroids. Aljamain Sterling, he's talking about steroids on the MMA Hour. I fucking loved this interview, man. I loved it. Aljamain Sterling speaking what's been on my mind, and I'm sure a lot of other people's minds. USADA didn't catch TJ Dillashaw cheating until a few years after Cody Garbrandt called him out, and Aljo had a great point when he said, look, Cody Garbrandt called TJ Dillashaw out for being on EPO years before he popped. What is the UFC even paying USADA for if you can have somebody snitch on someone in a public press conference and you still can't catch the guy? They didn't raise any red flags or suspicions. You couldn't do anything to test him randomly enough to get TJ Dillashaw after somebody. It wasn't even like it was behind the scenes snitching. This dude was literally, Cody Garbrandt snitched him out in a public press conference. Hey, that guy over there is using EPO and he showed all of our teammates how to do it. And USADA didn't catch him. Who the fuck else are they not catching? This is before they were champions. So, I mean, you've got guys that have a lot more to lose, and Aljo had just great point after great point. This is in America, where USADA is based out of, and they're testing these guys even more often for that fact. What about in these little Dagestans and Russias and Brazils and Chinas and all these places where there's a lot less USADA agents, and their athletes are treated like gods? Those athletes are probably getting by with a lot more than TJ Dillashaw was, who was publicly snitched on. So Aljo called TJ Dillashaw TJ Needleshaw for good reason, because I believe Aljamain Sterling is one of the clean fighters who's against steroids. But he made a lot of great points whenever he brought up how USADA completely failed at catching a publicly outed cheater for years. And you just expect them to be, what, keeping the sport clean? You have to suspect these guys that, especially, look, let's say it's someone as a UFC's darling, like a Peter Yan or one of these guys that just gets a couple good fights and skip to a title shot, gets to fight like he got to fight, not Aljamain Sterling, he got to fight like Uriah Faber, like a couple retired fighters, and then he gets a title shot. When Aljamain Sterling was fighting ranked fighters since his third fight in the UFC, and he's been fighting guys in the top ever since. And he never got skipped forward to a title shot. Because he's not from Russia. He doesn't have the fucking Russian fans rooting behind him. So these darlings, Aljo's just like, I would not be surprised if Peter Yan is on steroids. I'm not saying he is, because USADA's not catching him. But now USADA doesn't even tell you when they catch people. So USADA couldn't catch TJ Dillashaw when he got snitched on publicly. So it's going to be probably hard for them to fucking catch the Russian champion over there when they don't even have a, it's a bunch of bullshit going on. There's a bunch of malarkey going on. Now Jermaine knows it. Nate Diaz knows it. A lot of these motherfuckers are on steroids. The UFC is just wasting their money with USADA, and they're damn near, it's really just for public perception, for PR. Because they're not doing, look at some, we seen fucking Adesanya with the steroid titty, he's still walking around as champion. Like, you got all type of experts and doctors and steroid experts coming out talking about, no, that's a clear sign he's just cycling off the steroids wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's like all these other fighters, like, that's not normal. You don't just wake up one day with steroid titty. But nope, no USADA news, nothing. That reminds me of the TJ Dillashaw shit. It's like, what, in 2 years are we gonna get news that Adesanya popped? Like, yeah, we seen the steroid titty 3 years ago. Yeah, Cody Garbrandt said he was on steroid 3 years ago. Where you at, USADA? What's going on with that shit, man? The way they don't even announce it anymore, it's just so fucking suspect. It's hard for me to for me it almost questions the integrity of the UFC, man, and that's I think even partly plays into my lack of love for the sport. That with all the fighters that are not there anymore, and all the just new random fighters making their debuts on pay-per-views, and the lackluster fight cards, all of that shit, and the politics, man. I'm only interested in like the big fights. It's like almost like I'm came full circle. Like I'm a half a fucking casual now because a lot of the stuff I just don't agree with in the UFC. So until something comes along and fixes it, I'm kind of just there for the really good fight cards and the big fights because there's so much of this malarkey going on. But I'm completely think Aljamain Sterling was dead on the money with this. He's fucking got a whole lot of points he made here that were all very valid, incredible, and are just gonna go get brushed under the rug. But that's why I fucking love Aljamain Sterling. He's the funk master, and I was honored and privileged to be able to interview that dude. It is insane the fact that he was one of the guys I was able to interview because he is for sure one of the best bantamweights of all time. He's never lost a round. He's been knocked out once, but before the Peter Yan fight, who, like we said, like Aljo said, he would not be surprised if Peter's on steroids. I would not be surprised if Peter was on steroids either. But before that, no clean fighter had ever won a round over Aljamain Sterling. His only loss was to Marlon Moraes, who admitted it was a lucky kick, and it is what it is.